This video is about what's on the inside of a computer. What we've got here is an old computer. You've probably used this one if you're a student at the school. And on the back's the on-off switch and the power and all the bits. That's where you plug the monitor and the speakers and microphones and mouses and keyboards and USB. I've already loosened the screws here, so now I can take the top off. Okay, let's stand it up. Now, apart from lots of dust, you should be able to see some wires. Up here we have a speaker, that's the thing that does the beeping. Here I believe that is the hard disk, so let me try and take that out now. I can edit out this tedious screwing later. So I've managed to loosen this off now. In there is the hard disk, let me take it out. Okay, that's the power. That's where the data travels down, this big thick wire, and that goes down into this bit here, which is the motherboard. Okay, so this is the hard disk. This one is 40 gigabytes, so that's quite small these days, but it was good in its day. And this is where all the programs are stored. Windows, the operating system, is on here. Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Photoshop, Windows Messenger, all your programs are stored on the hard disk, okay? It's just like a big disk drive, okay? In fact, an iPod is basically just a small one of these. Okay, next thing then, this bit here, this is the old-fashioned disk drive, okay, where you used to put floppy disks. Most computers these days don't have one of these because it's old technology. Take the data out, power comes out.
Put it through the front.
There we go. So that was the old-fashioned disk drive. Floppy disk goes in there. Okay. Now let's go over here. This big thing here, this is going to be the CD drive.
Let's push it through the front.
Hey, there we go. There's the CD drive. So you just open that, put your CD in. Now the CD can store music, games, any sort of data you like. And once again, data cable here and the power supply. And so the power supply goes all the way back to this bit here. This is the PSU, the power supply unit, and that's the bit that can explode sometimes. And as you can see, coming out of the power supply unit is all the power cables, and a whole mess of power cables go down to here, and this bit there, and this is the motherboard, okay? This is where all of the main components are. Under this fan is the CPU, okay, the central processing unit. So I'm going to see, there's the fan. Without the fan, the CPU will explode. It gets that hot. Now, let's see if I can figure out how to get this off. Get some power cables out of the way. More power cables out of the way. Somewhere. There they are. There we go. Now that there, that's called a heatsink, okay? It's like a big radiator and it gets very hot and all the heat comes out the top of it and the fan sucks the heat away. And what would have been in here, down a bit, can you see that? What would have been in there, that's where the CPU, the central processing unit, goes. It's missing. Where is it? It's stuck to the bottom of the heatsink, and the reason that they stick is because they have a special kind of putty which transmits heat very well, which is that kind of black stuff that's stuck on the top of it there, and that's for transmitting heat from the CPU into the heatsink. So that there is the CPU, the central processing unit. You see the adverts Intel inside. Well, that's it there. Except that that square there isn't even it. It's probably inside there. And these are just connectors to it. And I've bent some of them, so that's completely knackered now. Okay, there's not far to go now. On the motherboard as well is this bit here, and this is random access memory, that's RAM. You hear people say, oh, my computer, it's got 2 gig of RAM. Well, that just means it's got lots of this stuff. And RAM is used when you are using a program. It loads from the hard disk into RAM. So if you load your operating system, when you switch your computer on, you load your operating system, it goes into RAM, where the computer can use it. If you then load Word, it comes from here into RAM. If you then load Internet Explorer, that also goes into RAM. If you have too many programs switched on, RAM will fill up. Then you have to do something called paging, where it then has to write back to the hard disk. Okay, it's called paging, and that will slow down your computer. So sometimes having more RAM in your computer makes your computer run faster. Okay, there's not much else to do then. That's just the motherboard. That battery there means that your clock on your computer stays current even when you switch your computer off. There's various other microchips that do different things that we're not very interested in. And that's about it. So if we just spin over here then, we can see the fan keeps the CPU cool. RAM stores the programs you're using at the moment. The CPU, the central processing unit, that's the brain of the computer. That's what does all the calculations. That's the heatsink that keeps the CPU cool. That's just some junk. Lots of screws. That's the hard disk drive. That's where you store all your programs in your operating system. Floppy disk, old technology. Don't need that anymore. Disk drive, these days they're also DVD drives, and some of them may even be Blu-ray drives. They are just where you can store things like photos and programs and games. And this is just bits of metal. That's the inside of a computer.